Welcome back everybody to this second blog in the series where I'm talking about the production of the track Death to the Machine, a track that was designed for the game Affinity, Aeon Rising. In the first blog I talked about the purpose of the track, how it's going to be used in the combat levels of the game, particularly the boss fights, and also talked about the type of sound that I was trying to achieve. Also went over the tempo, the time signature, and the use of the Locrian mode, and then also went over it briefly in the Pro Tools session and looked at the instrument tracks, the MIDI tracks, and how it's all routed together using Vienna Ensemble Pro, and just how I use different virtual instruments and the effects and amp simulators, etc. So in this video blog we're going to have a look first of all at the track structure, the different sections of the song, and then we'll go into detail in the different parts. In this blog we're going to look at the drum kit part and the bass and metal guitar part. So let's have a look first of all at the track structure. If you look at here in the markers section, you can first see there's an intro section here which is 4 bars long before you get straight into the section A1, or like a riff 1, and that goes for 16 bars. That leads into section B1, which is another 16 bars. Then there's section C1, another 16 bars. Then we go into an 8-bar bridge section to break it up a little bit before we go into a repeat of section B, which is titled here B2. Then we repeat section C, which is C2, and then we repeat the bridge again, breaking it up before the track is designed to then go back to the intro and loop that whole song. So yeah, basically you've only got the one instance there of section A1. It's mostly focusing here on section B and C's, but with a gradual intensity build up through the song towards the end. Alright, so let's have a look at this drum part. We'll start in with the intro section here. It's a bit of a basic start to the track with the kick drum here on every beat, with a 16th little pickup there into the next bar. In the third bar, the 16th hi-hats come in, gradually building into intensity, and then the snare comes in 16th to build up into the main section A1 here. So let's have a listen to that intro section. And now let's have a look at the main groove here in A1. You've got the kick drum here on every beat, and again with the little 16th pickup there into the next bar. You've got the snare coming in on every beat as well, but on the off beat, and it's having it like in eighths here, so it's creating like a double time feel to it. And then you've got the hi-hats in a 16th pattern with an open hi-hat on every third 16th. And then I'm using distortion type effects here, and then an ambient ping on every second bar coming in here. At the end of section A1, you have this little syncopated ending where it sort of stops on the third beat. It leaves a little bit of a break, and then comes back in section B1 with a new groove. So let's just have a listen to this main groove in section A1. Now this section B1, the groove is a little bit interesting. I've sort of slowed down the tempo, or at least to slow down the feel, removing that double time sort of sensation by just keeping the kick on the first and second beat, and then the snare only comes in on that third beat, and it sort of creates a bit of a bopping type of a sensation. I've still got the 16th hi-hats here, but using a different type of hi-hat sound, but it's still in 16th pattern. And I've also added another kick drum here. Here's another kick drum, and that just sort of fattens it up. It's a little bit a distorted kick drum, and it just sort of fattens up the texture. And again, using some sort of distorted clap sort of sounds as well. So let's just have a listen to this groove. Okay, so yeah, you got this the section B groove. Now, in regards to the drums, that's pretty much the track, because it basically alternates between those two different grooves. So in section C, it actually is using the groove from section A1, and then the bridge uses the second groove that's used in the B section. And then B2 is again still using that the second groove, and then C2 comes in, bringing back the first original groove, and then the bridge coming in again with the second groove. So it's just interchanging between those two grooves, with just a few different drum rolls to connect the sections. So if we look at this bridge section, snare pattern here, quite often used in electronic music. So yeah, that just connects the two sections, so from the bridge into the B section. Let's just have a listen to that. And again, it's used here. Let's have a listen to that. So that's pretty much the drum part. Pretty simple, but I find it quite effective. It's quite interesting to make this groove only because it's in 3/4 time and was something a little bit different than what I'm used to. Right, so let's have a look at the V metal guitar part and also the bass guitar part. We'll look at these together only because the bass guitar mimics the guitar part and is playing the same notes but at an octave lower. So it's worth just looking at these two together, but we will look at the guitar part in more detail because there's a bit more key switching and a few little interesting things going on. Before we do that though, if you look at these songs' entire structure, you can see the guitar part is divided really into three major riffs that are repeated. So in section A, B and C there's three individual distinct riffs, and in the bridge sections that's really a variation on the riff used in section A. So structure wise the song goes A, B, C, A, B, C, A. And you do have this 4-bar intro that just really leads into the song. So let's have a look at it into a bit more detail. So the intro, you can see here is you have this key switch which indicates power chords. So basically the tonal center of the chord, the fifth and the octave, so 3 notes giving you a power chord. Now these higher velocities indicate an open string playing, where lower velocities indicate muted strings. So in this intro, the 4-bar intro, there's just 3 notes that are played and big power chords. That leads into our first riff in section A. As you can see here, there's lower velocities here indicating playing in a muted style, with a couple of these ones here, these high ones, are open strings. and the key switch indicates single notes and not chords. The riff itself is a 4-bar riff. These first 3 bars is just a repeat of this C note, and then a couple of notes at the end, which is a bit of a climb up the Locrian mode. And in the 4th bar, you have the flattened 5th, the G flat, that is repeated and then climbs back down to the tonal center of C. So that's your 4-bar loop, and it's repeated 4 times, which gives you the 16-bar section. At the end of the section, you have these just these 4 notes in this bar, which is a bit of a syncopated pattern, and it helps break up the 2 riffs and creates a bit of interest at the end. So let's have a listen to this intro and the first riff together. I'll play the guitar and the bass together, seeing that they're so similar, and have a listen to what it sounds like. Now let's have a look at section B now, this next riff. This is a little bit of a busy riff here, as you can see, with some key switching going on. So this key switch here is the single notes, so not chords, just single notes, and this key switch here is indicating a 5th chord. So as you can see, there's a bit of a combination of different things going on. So some of these high velocities, again, open strings, and you can see here, for example, this key switch is indicating a 5th chord playing an open string, so an open 5th chord, and then it drops back down here to single muted notes, back to a open 5th chord, a muted single note, open 5th chord, and single muted note. So it's a bit of a combination of things going on there, and that just creates a really cool riff. Now this riff is really a 2-bar phrase, really, and it's repeated 8 times. And it's basically at the end of the 2nd bar here, you can see this bit of a climb going on here, which just creates that energy and intensity. And so at the end of the 16-bar section, it's a 2-bar phrase repeated 8 times, but this last bar, again, you get this syncopated 4 notes, breaks up the riffs, creates that interest before you get into the next section. So let's now listen to section B. Okay, so that's section B. Now we'll have a look at section C, the 3rd riff that makes up this song. So in this section, I'm only using single notes, so no chords, and there's a combination of opened and muted strings. As you can see, there's like 3 repeated notes here on the tonal center of C, and then you get this octave jump where the minor 2nd note, and that just creates again some interest and a bit of dramatic intensity. And then at the end of the 3rd bar and the 4th bar, you've got this scale rundown using the Locrian mode, and that creates a really cool effect, and then brings it back down to the tonal center of C for the riff to repeat. And so as you can see, it is a 4-bar riff. Now that 4-bar riff is then repeated, and then at the end of that repeat, I've got an interesting thing going on here. This higher velocity here is not an open string as these high velocities. They indicate open string playing, but this one here indicates when it's at the maximum velocity as a whammy bar effect, or a harmonic, and that just creates some really cool interest. So I think it's when you're playing a single note key switch, this will become a harmonic, and if it's a fifth chord, then it becomes a whammy bar effect. But because this riff is all single notes and not chords, this high velocity note here is a harmonic, a pinched harmonic, and that just creates a bit of interest and leads into the next section. So what I've done something interesting in this section is that I'm using a repeat of the riff, but I actually jump key. I jump from C Locrian mode to the F Locrian mode. So I jump a major fourth, and that key change really creates some intensity and sense of urgency, and it's repeated twice, giving you a total section of 16 bars. So let's have a listen to section C. So there you have it. Alright, and now finally we'll have a look at the bridge. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a variation on the theme or riff in section A, but it's instead of this the climb at the end of the bar here, it just stays on the tonal center of C for 3 bars, and it climbs up to the flattened fifth in the 4th bar, and it's a little bit more staccato, muted playing here. So let's have a listen to that now. But as you can see at the end of that, I had a little bit of a flurry there on that flattened fifth in 16ths, just to have this a bit of a dramatic lead into the next section, which is a repeat of section B. And so section B2 and section C2 is exactly the same as in section B1 and C1. So as I said, this whole song is based on 3 riffs, and that's pretty much the guitar and bass parts. So in the next vlog, we're going to have a look at the 8 different synthesizer tracks and the strings section, and how all that extra elements here will layer on top of the guitar, bass and drums to create the final track. But we'll do that in the next vlog, so bye.